word. Ask us if there's any public comment. Hearing no one, seeing no one, I'll close the public comment period and ask for approval of the September 21st, 2020 meeting minutes. Motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2020. I'll second that.
Any comments, corrections, or discussion?
Actually, can I?
Yeah.
Because I abstained last time. So that I abstained at that was previous.
Any further discussion?
No, I've just got to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to jump the agenda. And since we have visitors here this evening, that we're going to go to the first item of new business, application for assistance for GLR Family LLC / Ace Financial Group LLC. Consider their application.
Right. Okay, so this is Lori and Greg Fasinelli. They own Ace Financial Group. They're currently located at Meridian Center in a leased facility. Their lease is coming to an end, and they're looking for their next step, the next place to grow the business and pass it on to their son. They've identified this former Shaheen's property, former post office at 121 South Main Street. They are asking the IDA for assistance with that. They've requested sales tax exemption, mortgage tax exemption, and the standard real property tax abatement. This property has been vacant for 5 years. It is not been an easy redevelopment process. Many people have tried, but usually the parking becomes an issue. The Ace Financial Group would be an ideal candidate for this location. They're going to be bringing with them 6 well-paying jobs and creating at least one more job within the next 2 years. Their plan is to occupy the entire facility. Parking won't be an issue. They are by appointment only. And I guess I'd like to ask Greg and Lori if they'd like to tell us a little bit more about their project.
Hi, everybody. So I actually am Lori Ace Fasinelli. That's how we got our Ace Financial Group name. I'm the second generation of the business, and our son is looking to join us. He's a junior in specifically for finance and economics. So our lease is coming up in February, coming to an end, and that was the transition that we made. We were originally with a large brokerage firm. We were with Morgan Stanley, and in 2011 we went independent, and that's when we did our original lease. And now that we have the continuation plan with our son, and we know that we're going to be adding positions and the business is going to continue instead of being sold, we're now looking for a permanent home. And we love Fairport. We think it's an incredible job that you guys are doing with the development of Fairport. It's a up-and-coming, growing village and everything. And so we're excited about the building itself as well. It's a large undertaking. We love the feel, the historic feel. I can envision us in there. We just have to financially get through this process. And certainly with COVID, it didn't kind of help us in this situation right now. It's actually made it kind of concerning whether or not we were going to actually move, and it's kind of proven to us that we can work remotely, but we've talked extensively and decided that we will always need a physical location for our clients to come, and hence we're hoping to proceed forward with us.
But listen, everybody knows that building. There are significant challenges. To one, not only get it occupied so we can occupy it, but to bring it to what the standard that we consider we've got our image to be. So I always use the term B+, A- office space. So I think it's pretty self-evident that outside of the interior, there's significant exterior work that needs to be done. There's roof, windows, just to make it habitable. So, but again, when we started this process, we were really interested. I mean, I'm born and raised in Penfield, on the Fairport side of Penfield, over by Midvale. So I'm pretty familiar with Fairport, Harrington. We originally started this search in the Pittsburgh, Brighton, the more we looked, the more attractive your village became to us, just the significant improvements that you're making here, the ease of access, versus like a 12 corners of Brighton situation. And to be quite frank with you, we needed a building that could house, 6 to 8 people, all on one floor. We didn't want to rehab a house with multiple floors. The nature of our clients, we deal with retired clients, but primarily, and there are challenges in seeing them when they come in, as far as getting them to go up and downstairs. So the more we looked at that building over there, the uniqueness of the post office, the surrounding area, and then everything that at least I've seen you guys do down here, it just started to make a lot of sense. That in a perfect world, we can see ourselves coming home for an extended period of time, providing we can figure out how to make this work. So, is there anything about us that you need to know or you're interested in?
I have a question and just in the process where you are currently as far as closings, as far as any dealings with the village and the approval process, financing, all of those things. Could you just kind of touch on that?
So we took this, so because we own the business together and we practice our work together, we decided to split this into pieces from an efficiency standpoint. So Lori, my wife, is doing the financial side of it. She's interfacing with the bank and the lenders. And, together we work with the attorney, and I'm doing the construction piece, the architect. So I'll let her answer the financial question. As far as the planning, we have documents submitted to the town that were, construction documents
Village.
submitted. Or, I'm sorry, the village, I apologize. And from our architect, so they've been in here, I think, for probably a week.
And that's one of the things that we're waiting. We have not been able to get a hold of the survey, and I believe that the village requires the survey, so we are
That's coming.
in process of trying to get that from the seller, and his attorney at this point. And as soon as we have that, we'll get that to the village as well. But everything else has been submitted, the construction documents. I believe it's Jason?
Yeah.
Our architect has been interfacing with him, and then also with Debbie, to double check the parking and all that.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the commentary. I think there's probably going to be comments, I imagine, based on what we want to do, or these observations.
Do you know if you're going to need any approvals from zoning board or planning board or any of those
To the
things?
best of our knowledge, no, we don't need it.
No variances or?
There's
No.
not variances, no, but there might be a change of use.
Correct. So there's a couple of issues that are outstanding that we're waiting for Jason to give us some response on, directly, as it relates directly to parking and our use, which we're under the impression through our architect that we meet the minimum requirement for how we use the property. And we have the ADA accessibility with the outside ramp and things of that nature that we're looking for some commentary on how we're going to handle that. Outside of that, we haven't heard of any significant issue.
And with my understanding, from the back and forth that, and I believe Debbie will give the final ruling on that or whatever, but, because it's been vacant for so long, I believe that it will be a change of use no matter what. But the parking issue determines, from my understanding, whether or not it has to go to the planning board. And we don't believe that we have to go to the planning board based on our use and the expected.
Yeah, we don't offer, I'm not, I think we all see these commercials about financial services. We don't offer that type of walk-in type consultation, or we have, all of our clients are referred to us, I guess is the best word, and by appointment only. So we have immediate control over how many clients are actually with access to building at any given time. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but should be an issue for parking at all.
It's not a historic
Oh.
property.
We were
It's
told
not.
that.
On the finance side, we're approved through GRB. We've submitted to the SBA through Pursuit. So that's been all approved by their underwriting, and then the application's gone to the SBA. Beyond that, it's, we've got our GC lined up, and once we can get closed, we're ready to start the process of getting the building rehabbed so that we can start building interior, like build out the
We're
office
in the
space.
last 2 weeks of our due diligence phase, so when we originally wrote the offer, we had 60 days of due diligence, and then 30 more days for financing that basis of November. Although the due diligence phase has created some challenges with some of the things we've uncovered, obviously, we believe we can get through all of this, based on what our contractors have told us will need to be done with the building. Hence, assistance. Just trying to make the whole thing work.
So you have, sticking with that construction site, $550,000 in there for construction renovation costs. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
The question I asked you earlier on the square footage, and I thought it was something similar. That's $100 a square foot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
So you touched on roof and windows, but what else? Interior renovations. Are there any exterior? I mean,
Well, we're going to do so.
What? How do you? That's a big number.
Well, it's a huge number, and so there's 3 relatively large components to outside of just building an office, an interior space. There is HVAC that is somewhere between, and again, all of this needs to be refined, but somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 to redo the entire HVAC in the building. There's a minimum of $50,000 worth of windows, because it doesn't make sense for us to try to figure out how to maintain the windows that are in there, because there's really no efficiency with those. But we want to replace them with light product, so we have that same look. So at a minimum, through the quotations we've got there, there's $50,000 for that. And then you have, roof. The main structure of the roof, which is the regular shingle roof, appears to be in pretty good shape, but there's a relatively large flat roof on the back of that building, and that needs to be totally taken out and redone. And again, that's in the neighborhood of that $40,000 type number. So when you add just those 3 components up, you're half my budget just to get that building, I'll say, habitable. And then the rest of it is flooring, and
The entire inside has got to be totally redone. The flooring, there's multiple flooring, and it's not even, so we have to level the flooring everywhere to even be able to lay a floor. The roof, or all of the entire ceiling has to come down. There's leakage and water stains and everything. There's nothing usable in there.
But you are retaining the historical elements.
We absolutely love
That's
the
the-
fact that it was the post office. Like,
that's
we're
what
gonna
trying to
use the vault or the safe as our little coffee nook. So the clients will actually go into the vault to get their cup of coffee.
So the exterior of the building, our goal is to keep the exterior of the building. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, that was what really attracted us to the site. I mean, it was a major disappointment to see how run down it really was, but the actual attraction, not only the physical location, but the building itself. The brick building, the history behind the fact that it was a post office is very intriguing to me, or to us.
We're keeping the postmaster office and all the woodwork is a postmaster.
So we'll do
The bulletin boards, that's all staying, because that's the charm of the place.
So the simple things that we'll do is we'll repoint bricks where they have seen better days. We will fix the rotted, maybe not, I can be very specific about some of the posts on the outside. We will fix some of the wrought iron or railing that's out there that's been neglected and deteriorated over time. But when we're done, that building will look like a brand new building up that it was supposed to look like when it was built originally. That's our goal.
Maintaining all the windows exactly as they are. We plan to use the aluminum.
We were counting
Instead
on
of
these
wood,
because
if
they're
we
very
did-
similar.
If we did the wood like they are right now, it would be double the cost to replace those windows. The windows are incredible. I mean, it just is such a unique, interesting building that's what excites us about it, is it will be very unique to us and our personality. And if we weren't continuing the business or planning to pass the business along to our son, it probably economically wouldn't be worth doing
It would make sense, but again, we're making the investment, you know, not only back in the village per se, but we're making the investment in our business. We honestly believe that image that we want to portray to our clients, because we can get that and establish that in the application.
Is it a designated site by the Historic Preservation Commission?
We get told no.
We've been told no.
No. Good.
So
Yeah, we're slowly-
I'm going on that verbal no. I was told no, the architect actually checked amongst the town.
Right.
It was confirmed, or the village,
Okay.
it was confirmed again that there is no historic nature of the building. But again, it's a catch-22. That's the attractiveness of it we want to maintain.
Well, I understand, but I know the HPC and the work kind of slow.
Yeah.
No, it's our understanding of this.
Yeah, there are officially designated buildings within the village. You know, you would have been told right off. the
Right off the
bat.
bat.
No, that's good to know.
And
Yeah.
then you go to the wood windows instead of the.
Yeah.
Right, right.
You guys answered my question, but we were wondering about the historic status of that as well. I'm excited about the opportunity to see that building shine again.
Yes.
It really is a very interesting building.
It's a shame that it got to the place that it got to. I mean, I kind of understand how we got there. Listen, when I was a kid, I used to go to RC shooting with my dad.
Sure.
There was no Home Depot, there was no Lowe's. That's where I got our paint.
Yeah.
We were gonna paint the house. We used to go in that building. I vaguely remember going in and out of that building, but I remember when that it existed as a paint store. I didn't realize that it's been vacant for the 5 years, but above and beyond the vacancy, it's a shame that the current owner did do some of the minimum things to keep it up. Even if it was as simple as cutting back the trees. So, but, you know, that's why we're here. Hopefully we're gonna bring it back to life.
Donna?
No,
Just, why do you need us? Why do you try to make all this work, and why are these particular incentives important to you in the big picture?
So, you know, kind of back to that whole construction component of this, to be very frank with you, we're probably 30% over where we want it to be, you know, in a rehab or in a building, you know, redoing a building or finding a building that we were going to bring up to whatever, you know, to our standard. You can't change the location. So we were willing to make some concessions on the financial front as far as, you know, liking the area, wanting to be in this particular part of Rochester and really here at Fairport. But there's a significant cost, and for us to actually make this work, we need, to be quite frank with you, any incentive that we can get to help us get to the other side. So all of the things that Martha and that we've spoken about are vitally important to make sure that we can get the project done.
And you're familiar with all the conditions. Martha spent time with you to know obligations on your end. Yep.
And I will say we do, as required, we've run it through the benefit to incentive analysis that's required by New York State. We use the industry model, the Inform Analytics. What we came up with is 59.1 or 59 to 1, and I actually backed off some of the. I ran it with an average salary of $56,000 because that's the admin position they're going to be adding, but the actual salaries that not agents, is that the correct word?
The financial advisor.
Yeah.
Advisors is far higher than that. So I even was conservative on the model.
That's a great number.
It is a very good number, and I ran it. I was hard on it. I don't try to make these, I did a good job on the analysis. Went through it. We don't do it that often. I double checked with the proprietary software people to ensure all my inputs were correct, and it's a good number. They're resilient jobs. I put a little blurb in there in my write-up about how my goal and my focus is to bring these good paying resilient jobs to the village. And we can see through this time, other industries have suffered, but the financial industry did not take the hit that others are at this time.
And our
So,
group was established in 82, I think, or 83. Now, granted, the bases have changed, the names of bases have changed. But I think our average tenure on the advisor side, if I can do simple math in my head, is probably 20 years, 25 years, and the average tenure on the assistant side is 25 plus. So these aren't transient jobs. These people have been with us. I mean, 3 of them have been there before I was even involved, from good and bad was that.
But the phase that we're going into now is we're both in our early 50s, and we plan to work for about another 15 years. So now we need to start positioning the business for going to the next generation.
Continuing.
So we're gonna have to be looking to bring in, we need a registered sales assistant. So that's kind of, as I was explaining to Martha, there's really only 2 jobs in our business, administrative and financial advisor. And a registered administrative assistant is kind of in the middle. They can legally take orders and things from clients, but they don't want the responsibility of providing financial advice. So we need a registered sales assistant. And then we need to start bringing in financial advisors that are younger than we are, that our son will eventually be working with. He'll be coming in to start to build that younger financial advisors that will continue to take our business for the next 30 years.
Right, Mark, sorry, go ahead.
Have you projected personnel growth beyond the 2 years that
Yeah,
that space would?
at a minimum, it would, within 2 years, at a minimum, it would be 1. We're actually talking about another financial advisor within the next year. And that wasn't
right,
what
that
we
was-
put on there. When we did the analysis, or when I gave Martha the information, I used 1 clerical or assistant role, because we don't want to overpromise and then underdeliver. But we actually are planning on adding a financial advisor within the next year, and then our son would potentially be 2 to 3 years out from that.
Okay.
Because he's a junior in college right now.
If you have the ability to see the plan too, then I could be on a plan officer, but I believe there are 8.
There's 8.
right, I did include the floor plan in the
So, okay,
package.
so we're building out 8 interior offices, and I'm not building them out because we're bored. We're building them out because we believe that if we get into the right environment as far as attracting the right person, or persons, that we will have established a place that somebody will be more happy to come work. And we'll have a facility that will be able to house them also. So our goal is not to necessarily grow wildly, but we are looking to do some growth and then make sure we have some level of continuance set up, which obviously would need somebody to replace us at some point in the future. So that is our goal.
Martha, this is a 10-year.
This is the standard pilot that we're proposing, wherein the village is not abated at all, and the other taxing jurisdictions are that decline.
Okay. Any more questions or discussions from the board? As we'll move to action here, then, is there a motion to approve this?
Second.
It's the abatements that are requested.
That's correct. That's for sales tax abatement, mortgage tax exemption, sales tax, and the pilot.
Correct.
I'll just note for the board's information, because we did have the ABO make some comments in the last project we approved, that we were explicit about the benefits we provided in the form resolution that we provided to the board, so we know this now. We spell out the exact amount of the benefits, sales tax being $22,000, mortgage tax of $8,513, and abatement for the real property would be $12,712.
So that's page 49 of your package, is the board resolution that you're authorizing.
Page number?
49. That's the one you're authorizing us to sign by your motion. Is that right, Ed? Did I say that correctly?
And then what will happen after the resolution is, the document, straight transaction.
So that's what your motion was for, is that resolution as written. Do I need to do a roll call on that?
Yes.
Oh,
I would think so. We'll do a roll call vote. Ken Rohr,
Aye.
Leslie Lloyd,
Aye.
Donna Stefano,
Yay. Aye.
Kevin Clark is aye, and Rob Kettner is absent. Any further discussion? Okay. You have your approval.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. We're excited.
so we'll connect your council with Ed and just
Yep.
make sure you don't close without us.
Right.
Hmm?
Yeah, get that bill through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I spoke to Bill. Oh, good.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great,
We're good?
yes,
And you're certainly welcome to
thank
stay.
you.
It's a pleasure that we have a bill to pay. I'm sorry.
But thank you for your investment in the building.
Sorry.
I'm glad that we can work together.
Very excited.
We're a little bit nervous, a little bit frightened because we've never done this before, but at the same time, we are super excited.
Great.
Well, good. You're
It's a-
welcome to the village.
Looking
Thank
forward-
you. We're excited to be in the village. Thank you. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye, thanks.
It was a
We'll
pleasure
talk.
to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get back on agenda. We did the approval of the minutes. Go to resolution 2020-10, authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
I reviewed the bills, I would move payment of the bills, but I would like to enhance the documentation on a couple.
Okay,
Nothing wrong with the bill itself.
okay.
So I'll move payment.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Cash balances and financial statements, all of those together for purposes of review. Anything that you want to bring up, Martha?
No, we continue to work down our senior grant balance. We made our final advance to Evelyn for her grant.
She was
And
so
her,
happy how quickly that got done.
oh, I'm glad, because it actually took a little bit of time. And we'll probably have another request shortly for 1 Deland Park A, I believe it is, for a roof. So somehow the word is getting out. So those balances, we've got about 26,000 left. So, but other than that, no other comment.
I guess I will go to the investment reports. Ken had a question last month regarding the depositories,
Mhm.
and you sent us a note saying that has been all squared away.
Absolutely, yes, yes. Our rep there got right on it and corrected that. So
Anyone have any comments on the investment report? Let's go to then the financial statements.
So this is through our year end. We had a year end again. So overall, other than the unbudgeted items for the advertising and marketing expense associated with the Dollars for Scholars, as well as the pandemic research assistance that we allocated, that was unbudgeted. The Southwest Bank, last year when we looked at it, it would have been in the bottom line of the CapEx kind of thing. It's not a normal operating kind of a budget, so it looks like it's out, that it was unbudgeted, but I'm sure we reviewed it, but it's more of the capital expense portion. So overall though, we ended up, if you take in 350,000, right, if you back that back in, our net income was positive, and so that's in large part driven by the fee income, if you recall, but overall very good performance, I think.
Okay. That's on financials. Move into old business. First item is the Thomas Creek DPW repairs and
picture, I just wanted to show you, in case you hadn't been out, that the DPW did go out and put in some boards and so forth to address some of the safety issues at the boardwalk, which will keep it open for a little while longer. And then I also am including that final invoice and guarantee associated with the replanting of the butterfly garden. I don't have any pics for you on that, but.
And the DPW repair pictures also show us the condition of the boardwalk for any of you that haven't been out there recently.
And this, that first picture, sadly, is the overlook that we just repaired, that we just renovated. But actually, it was now 2 years ago, I think. But what happens is the DPW, when there's, this attracts graffiti. And so the DPW will go out and paint over it. But,
Just the graffiti part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what that
obvious.
is. Oh, yeah, I was wondering what that blotchy paint was. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
It's a shame, and I guess it's a good segue into the next item, though, the proposal that has been received from GPI regarding the next phase, if there is one, on that board.
right, because we had talked earlier about, you know, we did the overlook. And if we're talking about updating the boardwalk, that's a much larger project. I reached back out to GPI since they've done the engineering on the overlook and asked them to present a proposal, or the chair and I asked them to present a proposal to help prepare us for our eventual capital planning session that we'll have early next year. So they do say that they could come back with a conceptual design phase on page 25 there of about 2,700. Their fee would be 2,700, and that would make us much more informed about what we'd be getting into if we were to move forward on the project. So I don't think we're talking about re-engineering it. You know, I think we liked what we ended up with on the overlook. I think now it's been in place for a couple of years, so they might do some structural things, you know, to keep the fencing. I think now that you've seen it in place and it's aged out a bit, they can look for areas of weakness or improvement, which is great. So,
So I think what Martha and I are recommending is that we go ahead and authorize a conceptual only, as Martha said, so that when we do our winter planning meeting, that we have a little more detail for it to work with, because it's just sad what we have there, but we don't want to just keep throwing money at getting the same result. So I guess we're thinking just conceptual. So any thoughts on that are welcome.
I like that idea.
Sounds like a smart way, because otherwise, a few years from now, wonder, what do we do with this?
Yeah, anytime it just deteriorates, we get patch jobs like this, that, you know, I mean, thank you to the DPW for doing something, but they don't have the resources to go out there and do it again, future generation to it.
and it's at the end of its useful life, essentially. Although, fortunately, last time when we did the overlook, all the structural was fine. Because if you move into that next phase, they'll come out and test the structures.
Yeah.
So we did not have to get involved in the structural components on the overlook. So hopefully we'll have that same look on the boardwalk as well.
Yeah, and they spell out what in their scope of work on page 23, what they would be providing us for the conception.
And if we review this in February with this information in hand, we'll be able to get the bid out earlier before, and hopefully that we'll see some, cost savings that way. If we get that out. As I recall, I think the overlook was done late in summer or something. I remember we came in higher than we thought, but I think it was a labor availability kind of thing. But this way, if we have the information in February, we can make an informed decision if we want to move forward and get ahead of the construction season.
So if people like that idea, entertain a motion to approve a contract with GPI to do a conceptual study on Promise Creek Boardwalk, $2,700.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Before we leave that, I just wanted to go back. I did reach out to 10 contract landscape companies. I heard about, remember I talked a little bit about possibly carving out the maintenance. I heard back from one, but it could be a timing thing. They also could be swamped at this time. I had sent out something asking to respond before the 15th. You know, I can send that out again, you know, after, as they wind down, but I imagine that all of them are very busy right now and don't have time to.
It's a rain day today.
You could still work today. So I'll do that again and see if we, you know, I'd like to have that information just because we want to protect our investments.
One other old business item not on here is just an update on the economic development study, and I just kind of, in reading the minutes from last month, we were expecting something from SWBR in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Is what it said.
You're right. I have had no communication from them. On Thursday night, there is a village comprehensive planning meeting that I'm a part of, and the agenda includes the economic development study. So I'll have an opportunity to get up to date, but thank you for that.
Any other old business for idea? Going to new business, and that first item, do we have to do something with the attorney waiver?
Yep.
And was that part of our resolution, or this is a separate action?
Separate action authorizing Martha to enter into, there's a conflict waiver letter that we need to sign. You'd have to authorize her to sign that.
So essentially, Ed's firm, someone else in Ed's firm, has been asked to represent the bank in this transaction. So where would a conflict arise, Ed?
If there were, the conflict would arise if at some point, like the bank were to sue the IDA for payment of the note, the collect on the mortgage, and there was some reason the IDA didn't want to release the mortgage, or unassigned rights. So basically, the IDA has some rights that it retains under the leaseback. If the bank tried to squash those rights, those would be a conflict that, if that were to arise, I'd have to recuse myself representing the IDA, and then bank counsel, who's Kim Carl in the office, but she'd have to recuse herself, and you'd have to get separate counsel, something like that. But these IDA transactions, I've never seen that happen.
And that's on page 61.
But we have to disclose the conflict pursuant to our professional responsibility.
But there isn't one currently
No.
existing.
Nope.
There's not one currently existing.
Nope.
Okay.
We don't anticipate. That's what, and we don't anticipate that would ever be a conflict.
It's more like they're disclosing to us.
Yep.
And but we have the right to say no, you can't. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
There a motion to approve the waiver?
So moved. Second.
Kevin, Donna? Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business, North Main Street parking.
Right. I under separate cover, I sent to you the proposal that I received late Friday from Macedon. But I also included in there for you on page 64 the updated parking tabulation worksheet that they're using for planning to with regard to 25 Parse or 75 North Main. And so what you'll see is that they're asking the village in that far right-hand column to waived 283 parking spaces. So I believe, as I recall from my the previous planning meetings, Peter Vars, their engineer, talked about how they came up with the required number of spaces. Initially, they went in it as if everybody was a restaurant and calculated it that way. But then since some of them are not restaurants, some of them are, sports training or office space or whatever, he feels the actual demand would be less than that. But in order to, when they first came in, they said, let's just load it up and figure out how many spaces we need. So initially, the 228, if you see the number of waived spaces, that's what they're currently operating under per planning board resolution. The planning board already waived 228. And it's been complicated because you've got two parcels and there's cross easements and all of those things. I just put this in here just so it's to demonstrate that the demand for parking. We know it's going to be something, greater than what's existing there. So.
It's a great planning board.
Yes.
Okay, so our question is, we have a proposal that is too high.
Yeah. Came in about 50% too high, right?
Not even what I said it was going to be, which was just shooting for the hip, but it also makes a difference because of our procurement policy. If we are looking at spending $15,000, we're going to at least receive written proposals.
Kevin, or Chair, the 5 inches of asphalt millings, is that
That's
a
one
good?
of my targets.
Okay.
Is that I think that it goes back and an explanation of where we are with our policies and what value engineering is the term that could be considered as we make a decision. And that is certainly a place to start, is 5 inches instead of 4 inches, maybe 3 inches. The other thing that I thought of is how much they include removing spoils. And you remember he talked, Martha and I met him up there and went through what we're talking about doing there. And again, I mean, even in his cover letter with that proposal, I guess you said it's only going to take a few days. That's a lot of money for a few days. So it's got to be a material, which would be the millings, if we can scale that back, because I don't believe they're a temporary condition to get us through one season, but that's in fact what it turns out to be. A base that's been there forever. It is hard and stable. So, maybe 3 inches, maybe 4, but the other thing is removing the spoils. I don't know if there's going to be any, and I think that number one, if we work with the village and they have on-site disposal there, or some of our property even.
Yeah.
Is there a place that we can dispose it as long as they grade it out and don't leave it, it's just piles of stuff. So what he might be able to do to be creative there. Those are a couple of thoughts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend going ahead with this at 15,000. Well, we can't.
No.
We can't. Get written proposals in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts?
When it says no undercuts of any kind, figured what are undercuts?
Undercuts is if you were to get their equipment in there, see that the ground is like really soft or something like that, so you have to dig that out and put a stone in just to bring it back to where it was. That's an undercut. They have not figured any of that, and that's reasonable.
Okay.
Most people would exclude that, and it is, by all appearances, it's not good.
next steps, Chair, would you be communicating that to him?
I can do that.
Thank you. Well, I'll follow along.
Okay. Renew the legal services with Kessler.
Right, our agreement calls that we have the option every year to renew for one more year. So it's up to the board.
And are there any change conditions in that renewal?
No.
Okay. Everybody happy with renewing that?
You asked while he's here.
Motion to approve the renewal with Underberg and Kessler.
So,
Second.
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any further business for the IDA?
I have none.
Yeah. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so are we going, urban renewal is Jen?
Yes,
here?
I just texted her and asked her to come in, but
Turning off the light.
thank you.
So I'll call the October 19, 2020 meeting of the Fairport Urban Renewal Agency